name is Brian Dunn. I am the Director of Marketing at SWK Technologies. I want to thank everybody for joining us on this webinar, Keys to Becoming a Leader in Field Service. Just to go over some logistics to get started. Everyone is on mute. If you have questions throughout, please type them into the questions or the chat box in your control panel for the GoToWebinar. And this webinar is being recorded today. It will be on the SWK website after we finish. So to start, I'd like to give you a brief introduction to MSI before I turn it over to Kelly Starr. MSI is a Sage Silver development partner and a longtime solutions partner with SWK Technologies. They are the developer of Service Pro, the leading all-in-one cloud field service solution integrated to both Sage 100 ERP and NetSuite, both of which are key platforms that SWK sells and supports. So with that being said, I will turn the presentation over to Kelly Starr now. Kelly is the Director of Business Development for MSI, and he'll get us started. So Kelly, over to you.
Okay, appreciate it, Brian. Good afternoon, everybody, and if anybody's on from the West Coast, good morning. My name is Kelly Starr. I'm the Director of Business Development for MSI, so I work closely with SWK, a key partner for us, and also with Sage and the NetSuite user community and development community. So if you're a Sage customer, that's relevant, as well as NetSuite. Our product is integrated with a number of different platforms. So I manage those relationships, and if there's interest in our product, I can certainly direct you to the right person in our organization to help you with your solution. Joining me is Chris Steele. Chris is a sales engineer with MSI. I will be introducing him a little bit later on as he does the demo. Chris is a key part of our team as well. Should we have interest after the webinar, typically our process is to do a detailed analysis with our clients to make sure there's a good fit and kind of understand what your current operation looks like. So Chris is not involved with the demos, but really kind of sorting through where your vision might be to field service. So I'll introduce Chris in a little bit. So in terms of the agenda, I'll just walk you through a little bit about our background at MSI, and then look at field service market challenges. These are some of the things that are keeping service managers up at night, and so we'll walk through that and just kind of see what we're, share what we see in the marketplace and where people are having challenges with their service operations. Then we'll turn that into looking at what are the trends to resolve those challenges and best practices that we're seeing in the field service market as well. And then the majority of the presentation today is a live demo of our product, so we'll have about 40 minutes for that, and then we'll wrap this up with questions at the end. As Brian said, just key those in on the way or as we go through the presentation, and we'll try to cover those all at the end of the session here. So in terms of MSI, we're based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, actually just a little bit north in Mequon. It's about 12 miles north of Milwaukee, so we're a Midwest-based company. We've got about 60 employees. Probably more than half of our employees are developers or service professionals that help with implementations. So there's a big commitment in terms of making sure our product is leading edge. And as you'll see in field service, there's a lot to putting together technology for that environment. There's a mobile aspect, there's back office, there's integration with other platforms like ERP environments. And so that commitment needs to be continuous to keep your product up to speed and relevant in the marketplace. So typically our field service software, that's really all we do. So all 60 of our employees are involved with just doing field service software, and some of the areas that we touch are organizations that are providing service, inspections, maintenance, proactive maintenance, and then the reporting to help monitor the operation. And typically our customers are coming off paper-based solutions. Most people are using paper or spreadsheets to try to manage field service, and that's a challenge. And so typically we're helping them go from a completely manual environment to one that's automated. So let's take a quick look at just defining what field service really is. So our definition, if you will, is to there's a lot of field service people that are basically remote to your organization. And so if I look going left to right here, typically if a manufacturer or a distributor is selling product, first thing that happens is that product might be installed by a service organization, so that kind of starts the whole life cycle of maintenance. Once that product is in, product is under warranty for a period of time, so we're kind of monitoring the warranty periods. There might be preventive maintenance that's planned and scheduled, so our product looks at that. Many times when service is performed, there's an inspection component. So inspections that are manually performed today typically are going through a series of questions, and those need to be answered, documented, and audited. With our mobile platform, we can take paper-based inspection and turn that into an automated solution with branching and different things that might come out of doing an inspection. And then a number of organizations have what's called break-fix service. So break-fix is taking calls when something might break that morning, that day, and need to have quick turnaround in service. And so those are kind of the main areas of field service that we see in the marketplace and our software works with. We're probably involved with over 20 different vertical markets. So in the middle section here, I've listed a couple of them that we're involved with. So there's manufacturing, distribution, so companies that distribute product for a manufacturer are often responsible for the service. One of our verticals that we're involved with is HVAC, so that's listed there as well. A lot of times we're seeing equipment that's fairly complex as part of our solution. So these are assets that have serial numbers. They're things that are typically more expensive, and when they're down, they need to be serviced quickly so they can be back and put into production. Then on the bottom, we've got a number of our customers that we work with. These are both very large organizations and small organizations. On the lower left is H.O. Penn, which is a very large cat dealer out on the East Coast. So we're working heavily with the cat dealers to provide their service for their field service organization. We've got a couple of cable companies listed there, so Time Warner Cable and Charter. We do a lot of audit work with our mobile products in those situations. Total Energy Systems in the middle on the bottom is a power systems distributor. So one of the key things that they've done is really beef up their service capabilities. They felt like the product side was heavily challenged by price pressure, so they became more focused on providing great service, and they use our tools to make that happen. So let's just turn to some of the challenges that we typically see in service organizations. Maybe this will resonate with the people joining us today. So typically, I'll show just a couple of them. There's obviously dozens of challenges in service organizations. So typically, we're seeing data silos as one of the problems that organizations face. And what this means is that data is typically residing in a number of different places, and that makes it a challenge to perform service and to manage your operations. So if you've got Sage or NetSuite, you might have customer data there. You've got sales information. When you want to perform service and you don't have an automated solution, there's a lot of replication of that data. It becomes error prone and costs a lot of time and money, and usually drags things out to perform that service. A key indicator in service is what's called a return trip. So ideally you want to provide service the first time and get any resolution performed with one single visit. So when you see a lot of return trips, that means you're probably not providing the best customer service, and so that's certainly something that's keeping service managers up at night. Slow billing is a big challenge when you have paper or you have people in the field that don't have connection to the back office. Billing can be slowed down because you're mailing things in, or you're waiting until that service technician comes back to the office to get the billing process started. When there's delays like that, typically, the customer can challenge that bill because weeks or maybe even months go by before they're seeing the bill, and so that's a key ROI area that we work with. This is a picture. Hopefully this is not something that you're seeing in your customer base, but everybody's familiar with those long ETA windows that maybe in the cable space you've seen this, where you're trying to schedule somebody's time. They give you an 8 o'clock a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. window, and so you're kind of left there wondering when they'll come out. And so ETA windows and shortening those and giving better visibility is a key area that we'd want to look at in terms of resolving challenges. So those are just a couple. I've got several others listed. Data entry, and then the customer experience is all about the fact that customers now have a lot of mobile devices. They're used to technology to work with on the consumer level, so they're expecting in a business environment that customer experience, having a lot of information, having alerts sent to them regarding their service is becoming an expectation. So they've kind of raised the bar in terms of what kind of expectations they want when service is needed. So in terms of those challenges and what's happening in the industry, let's just kind of look at the field service trends that are being documented by some of the research firms. So in terms of Gartner's looked at this industry. On the low end, we see estimates that this is a $1.2 billion annual industry. We've seen some estimates as high as $10 billion. So we're talking about a very big market that's impacting lots of people in the field service sector. It's growing at 13% growth. That's mainly driven by mobile. I think the industry's been around a long time, but now with the tools that mobile provides, you're seeing robust growth in this area, and a lot of organizations are making those types of investment. The good news in terms of a lot of organizations, if you feel like you're just starting to look at this, you're not alone here. It looks like with just a 25% penetration rate in terms of automating field service, 75% still have not done that, and so we're still early in the field service automation trend here. Another study, this is by the Service Council. They are a consortium that works with not only field service organizations, they work with the providers, they work with the consultants, and so they collect a lot of data in terms of what's going on in field service. So their studies show that 72% of organizations are investing in mobile or plan to invest in mobile in the near term. Not a big surprise there, given what I just said about mobile driving field service growth. And then the key area that they bring out that I think is relevant to those on the call is that 67% or 2/3 are looking at making that field service investment, but they also want to connect with legacy systems. And so if you've got Sage or you've made that investment in NetSuite, your expectation is that when you invest in field service software, that there's the compatibility there to make that investment more enhanced, kind of a best of breed approach. And then finally, Aberdeen Group has also done a number of studies. Most recently, they've done a study of 200 service firms, and they've categorized those firms into 3 different areas. The top area they call best in class is the top 20% of service organizations. So they kind of look at the benchmarks that best in class provide. Then they've got kind of the middle or the average 50%, and then there's the laggards, which is the low 30%. So in terms of what they found is on the mobile side, certainly there are investments going on in mobile with the best in class, but they also see the best in class taking mobile to the nth degree. They're really seeing mobile being as the way to get rid of that paper trail and completely automate it. So you'll see mobile devices taking pictures of assets that are being serviced. You'll be getting electronic signatures. You'll be using mobile for GPS and location of where you're going for those service calls. They also see that on the scheduling side, Again, GPS is heavily used to locate either the trucks or vans or the field technicians, where they're located and how close they are to the needed service call. There's a filtering capability with the right equipment is sent on that call, and of course that's to make sure that there's a first-time fix rate that's really high for those best of breed or best in class organizations. And finally, at the end, this puzzle is kind of related to what the Service Council found, that field service is interconnected with a lot of different things. It's certainly ERP, but we're seeing the Internet of Things and the sensors that are being that are tracking data in the different equipment assets. Those are all kind of being integrated into the solution. So just last slide before we bring Chris into the demonstration here. What I thought I'd do is just kind of walk you through a workflow and give you kind of a high-level view of what Chris will be walking you through, and it kind of map it to our product. So our product is really broken out into three different main areas. There's a back office component, and Chris will start with that, and then there's a scheduling component, and then there's mobile. So those are the three functional areas. And of course, we're also typically integrating with an ERP system on the back end. So what will happen typically is there's a service request, so the customer has a problem with one of their pieces of equipment. They will call that service organization, and this jumps right into our back office area. And what we're doing now is typically looking at, you know, who's calling us, who's that contact, what kinds of assets do they have on site that are under maintenance. A lot of times we've already pulled that data from the ERP system, so we know the contact, we know their sites, we know their address and location and so forth. And then next we're looking at how do we optimize and schedule the right technician out there. So Chris will walk you through our scheduling software and the functionality there in terms of assigning the right technician. And then once that's done and somebody's assigned to that, we're really looking at the mobile side of our product. And so they're on site. Many times they're disconnected from the software because a lot of times work is done in, maybe it's a basement or an area that doesn't get good Wi-Fi or cellular service, and so the software needs to work offline as well. And then once the work is complete, we're back to synchronizing to that back office. So we're circling all the way back to cleaning up that work order, make sure that the line items are correct, make sure the equipment that was serviced or assets that might have been pulled off the van that are used to complete that call, those need to be invoiced, and then that kind of completes the service call and then pushes that data back into the ERP system for invoicing. So next I'm going to turn it over to Chris. And Chris, are you on the line? Just want to make sure you got connected here.
I am here.
Okay, I'm going to change presenters here in a second.
All right. Looks like I get to show my screen. And what screen are you seeing? It's not letting me pick. Oh, wait,
right now we see a motorcycle.
Well, that's good. That's the fun one, right? Now you should be seeing the Service Pro screen, yes?
Thumbs up.
Very good. Well, thanks again for joining us, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to take you through the Service Pro software. We are here at the Service Pro home screen, and as Kelly mentioned, we're going to kind of take a walk through the core functional areas of the software, which begins here in the back office and typically begins with a call and someone calling in for service. And in this case today, we're getting a call from Pam, and I'm using my simple search tool right here, which is super inclusive and allows me to search by customer contact, customer, as well as even item serial number. But Pam Rich is calling in from Saratoga Medical, and when we click on her name, it's going to load up a lot of information about her organization that we keep in the Service Pro database. Now, the Service Pro database is going to pull all this information typically from Sage or NetSuite or the ERP that we're working to integrate with. So the master records actually live elsewhere, and we just replicate them in Service Pro, including things like credit info and additional information, for example, comments about the particular site, for example, a lockbox code to get in, and this is information that can be transferred to the technician in the field as necessary. We've got our address and phone number information. We've used our sticky default solution to pre-populate the type of call we're getting here in terms of its phone and repair, and we've got to do break fix. And we take advantage of these sticky defaults to pre-populate fields that with typical information that customers are calling in or making requests on, so that we can speed the call taker's ability to move through the process. Pam's calling in, and we'll just pop a note in here because her cat generator is throwing, ooh, I can type and talk. On air supply. So it's got a fault code going. So we take a quick note from Pam, and then we'll want to work our way down the line here and take a look at the equipment she's got on site. So she says she's got a cat generator throwing a fault code. So we'll look up the equipment that we know about on her site, and maybe we just want to do a little search for cat, and there's the Caterpillar 100 kW generator. So we'll select that, and we're adding that piece of equipment to our call. We're going to take some action to go do a field repair. But we also have the ability at this point to take advantage of the data capture within our systems. And here we can see that there's no warranty coverage on this unit, and there's no service contract on this unit. But we can also look at the history of work we've done in the past. So you can see we were back there in June, and we updated our automatic transfer switches, and we did a quick inspection, and Ray was the guy who was out there, and he was also back out there in May. And as you can see, we have several pages of additional service history here on this particular piece of equipment. But simply put, we've got the quick ability to capture core information, log the call, pick the piece of equipment we need to go service, and then click the quick button here to create a work order. We're going to get a little reminder, make sure we're actually going to work on the right piece of equipment. If there were other pieces of equipment Pam needed us to work on at this time, she wanted us to do something else on something else in her generator set, perhaps we could pull up another piece of equipment as well. But we're going to pop this into a work order and move forward with the process. So we've separated calls and work orders, because we have lots of customers that do that triage step that Kelly mentioned, and frequently are able to resolve a customer's issue over the phone. And if that's the case, we get it done on the phone call, we close the call, we never progress to a work order. However, whenever we're going to send a technician, we want to create a work order. You'll see that the work order has a separate numbering scheme from the calls, and we do keep track of both. We have the ability to, at the work order level, add a customer PO number, our own job number. We can see the site address as well as GPS coordinates for the location, as well as billing and shipping information, which in this particular case happen to all be the same. We do have the ability to keep track of multiple sites. I mean, Saratoga Medical has 3 different sites, one in West Dallas, one in Burlington, one in Grafton. We could have, even though Pam's from Grafton, we could have just as easily picked a different site for her. And move through. We can bring the notes over if we need to, just to make sure that the work order gets that information as well. We could add additional notes associated with the work order at this point. If we were so inclined, we could also insert additional information. In this case, for example, maybe we want to send a picture over of her cat generator here. We can upload that picture to the system as well. So whether it's a photograph or a repair manual, it's just about any file you might capture or have available on your PC to bring right over to the work order and deliver. Associate. We've got an appointment automatically generated, because if we've created a work order, we need to send a tech. we need to create an appointment for that tech. So we'll just double click on that to enter the appointment information. The appointment number is automatically generated. We can type a quick note to the technician here. Just a quick note to let the tech know what they need to really do. If we needed a specialized technician, we could select it here. We could put in requested and promised dates here, but we're going to actually take a few minutes and go through our visual schedule board in order to display that information and make those selections. You can note that the preferred technician here is Walter Power Systems, so we can assign this to Walter, or we can assign it to one of our available techs if necessary. We've got a default length of an hour here. Maybe we want to increase our appointment length. If I hit the up button, it works better. I could schedule it a date and assign a tech right here, but once again, we're going to use our schedule board to do that. So really all I need to do is save this information and send this work order out to my technician. You can see that it's already, it's going to be scheduled for 2 hours. It hasn't yet been dispatched, so I'm going to need to take that step simply by clicking the dispatch button, and that's going to send the information out to my scheduling board, where we'll take advantage of the scheduling solution to move the order process forward here. Just a couple things before we jump to the scheduler that I want to make note of. You'll notice that right here in the center of the screen, I have a field called order type, and there's a little C beside it here. One of the things that's nice about the Service Pro software is it's very highly configurable and includes the ability to add up to 25 user-defined fields into each of the settings that you see, like order info, appointments, segments. You can add lots and lots of user-defined fields to ensure we accommodate the verbiage and the type of information that's appropriate to capture for your individual business needs. Also helps us ensure that we match up with the fields that are critical for you with your ERP. So let's pop over to the schedule board. And we have a visual scheduling solution here that contains multiple elements. First, down here in the center section along the bottom is the new unassigned work order for Saratoga Medical that we just created. And this corresponds to this little red building icon over here on the right-hand side of my map. And the map section here is composed of several elements, and they're all GPS-based elements here. There's the building sites, which are these little green building icons, which are indicators of work sites with work orders and technicians assigned. Sorry for the flashing there. And then we have that red site, which is a work order location and building and service site without a technician assigned. In this case, it's our Saratoga Medical order. And then we've got the blue balloons here, which actually represent the GPS coordinates of our service technicians based on the GPS in their mobile device. We can zoom in a little bit if we need to try and get a little bit better feel for where our techs are relative to our work sites. And if we really want to zoom in critically on this particular work location, we can click on the appointment itself here in the unassigned section and get a good zoom in as to the work site location, and then slowly back out to see where our closest techs might be. Bill's pretty close by. We have a bunch of techs here at our Mequon, Wisconsin offices, which is also fairly close to our friends in Grafton. All of our assigned work orders, which can be accessed from another tab here, are actually displayed here on the schedule board, which as you can see is currently broken up into 24 one-hour segments. And the color coding associated with each of these work orders corresponds to the status key on the left-hand side here. So we've got new appointments in blue and appointments that the technician has acknowledged and accepted in yellow. Where the technician is on site, we've got green, and so forth down the line. Completed work orders in red, those waiting on something, perhaps parts, or additional, perhaps a service vehicle, something of that nature here in this kind of purpley pink color. It's very simple for us to rearrange this board in terms of the kind of view that one might like. I can change the number of slots from, say, 24 to 7 and pull it out to a day view if that's appropriate. Do a quick save of that, and the board will change its look and feel. I also have the ability to filter my technicians as we look forward, because I know I'm going to a hospital, but I need to repair a generator. So I know I'm going to go do service, so I have a technician filter here that allows me to group, and there's my change in the schedule board here that gives me that day view. As you can see here in our demonstration system, we really only schedule a day at a time, but we can see all the same service techs and the same information about who's where and who might be available. So I've got a technician filter here that's a grouping filter, and I can assign any of my techs to any number of groups that I'd like. In this case, I've got a service, installation, and inspection crews. I want to check out who I have available to do service work, so I'll filter my team by service. Now I'll take a moment, and now I've rather dramatically limited the number of technicians that I have to choose from in order to go perform the service work that I need at Saratoga Medical. You'll also notice here on the map that my technician bubbles have changed colors, and these yellow folks have been filtered out of the selected group. And I've got a group of blue bubbles down here hiding behind things, including John, who's one of my filtered techs. So my filtered into group shows in blue. My filtered out group shows up in yellow when we start looking at our techs again. It's really simple, straightforward and easy. I can also filter by skill. So for example, I know I'm going to work on a gen set, so I probably at the very least want someone with electrical skills, and so I can pull another filter and probably reduce my list of qualified tech. Oh, looks like everybody on this list is still qualified for electrical work. If I needed to make sure that they were also available for medical, for example, I can pick multiples and filter my techs even further. I'm going to switch my view back to the 24 by 1 hour. Get that flipped back for myself here. I still have my same techs here. I'm going to refilter those guys down. And now it's time to say, who do I want to go do this work? Well, I can see that Chris is actually, that would be me, it's my service tech hat. Chris is actually online as indicated by the green dot next to his name here, and John's been offline for some period of time. So it looks like Chris is active and ready to go and looking for a new work order because he finished one up a few hours back. So I'm going to assign this work order to Chris by simply clicking and dragging to the schedule board. So I'll schedule it for somewhere close to the current local time. And there's my 2-hour scheduled appointment for Chris. So at this point, I'm going to take a moment and get my device synced up on the mobile side and bring it up for you so that I can show you our mobile solution. Give me just a moment to make that switch. As I bring my iPad up. So now you should be seeing my iPad, and I am using a third-party piece of software to display my iPad. I do actually have my iPad working live now, and our mobile device, mobile solution, pardon me, is currently set up to work with Android and iOS devices phones or tablets. So we're rather agnostic in that sense. We will be supporting Windows Mobile in Q4 this year as well. But the nice thing about our application is that it is a truly native application, meaning it's installed on the device from either the Apple Store or the Play Store, depending on your platform. And we have the ability to engage with our work orders whether or not we have internet access and connectivity. The only thing we need connectivity for is to pull a work order down onto the device and to sync the information generated by the work order back to the back office team. So at this point, I could literally drop this unit into airplane mode and do everything I need to do in the field. So in the case that I might be walking deep into the bowels of the hospital and lose connectivity, or I'm working in a high-rise or some subterranean environment, etc., I don't have to worry about having connectivity to perform my work on the mobile device in the field. To access my work order, it's as simple as touching it, and it brings up some information, including those notes about the lockbox code and who called in. And really, the first thing I want to do is let the folks in the back office know that I'm going to do this work. So I'm going to change my status to accepted, and that will update the schedule board back in the back office and change the color of my appointment on the schedule board to yellow. And I can see the information as I scroll through the work order here that I need to assess and repair the generator. So it's possible that I've been to Saratoga Medical before and that I know exactly where I'm going. But if I need directions, it's as simple as touching the address, which will launch the native mapping application on my mobile device. And I can quickly get driving directions from my current location to the location I need to get to. It's nice and simple, convenient use of technology built into my mobile device already. Knowing that I'm about 20 minutes away, I can then re-access my work order, take a moment to look up the contacts for the job site, and there's Pam Rich. If this was my phone, I could simply touch her phone number and dial her right up. Otherwise, I want to do my best to let Pam know that I will be on my way to see her in the next 20 minutes to a half an hour, assuming that I'm free from my most recent work order at this time. So I'm going to take advantage, I'm going to take advantage of the power of the internet, and I'm going to teleport myself up to Grafton here, and I'm going to change my status to arrived on the job site. And then once I get to the job site, I'm going to look up the asset that I need to work on. And as we recall, it is that CAT SR4 generator. It's the Caterpillar, and it's with their generator plan out back. So I even have ability to know the location of that device relative to the whole work area that I might go into. I'm going to access that CAT generator, and I'm going to perform all the work I need to do against that generator, thereby building additional history for this particular asset in the back office. And as you can see, I really have 4 areas of work to pull through here. Doing an assessment, it looks like there is an airflow problem, so I'm going to go to my parts asset bucket here, and I'm going to start looking for an air filter. So I can use a search here and just type in filter, and I'll get lots of filters. So I have the Trion replacement filter, and I've got oil filters and air supply filters. You'll see too that there are several of the same filter, but with different prefixes here. So I've got the IR 0739 here with a T54 prefix. I've got the same thing with a 001 prefix. The reason for this is that I have the ability to look at the appropriate warehouse, and in this case, I drive truck 54. That's what the T54 stands for. So we're able to bring warehouse-oriented information from the ERP through the back office system and out to the mobile device so that I can use my truck as a warehouse and grab the appropriate inventory from the appropriate source and keep inventory appropriately tracked. Now, I'm going to want to pick the appropriate air supply filter from my truck and add it to my work order. I simply select it and pop back to the asset, and you'll see that it's been added to the work order. If I actually need two for some reason, and in this case, this is a big boy and it does take 2 filters, I can change the quantity. And I can also make some notes. I like to use Siri to make my notes, as she is a more efficient typist than I am. As you can see, we do take advantage of the built-in voice recognition within the mobile device and our software. It's kind of a convenient piece of information there. Now, one of the things I need to do is I need to assess a trip charge. I know she was only 20 minutes away, but I can add a task as well. And a task in the world of Service Pro really is any item that needs to find its way to a work order, whether or not it is chargeable is not really important relative to tasks, but as long as it's not labor or parts or inventory or an inspection, we classify it as a task. So it might be a trip charge, a per diem, an expense. It might be a purchased part that you need to go to a local supply house and pick up as well. Track those items in the tasks area. I've added a trip charge, and I've added an air filter, and I've been able to restart the generator. So I want to make sure that as I'm doing that restart, that I walk through a checklist. And in this case, it's going to be, again, using my simple search, a maintenance, inspection, and startup checklist. And we call these checklists inspections, and I access it simply by touch. And our inspections are broken down into pages, and each page has the ability to have separate sections like the blower and the motor supply sections, and questions within. And this particular inspection takes advantages of all the various types of questions our solution is designed to create. The question builder, the forms builder that I used to create this inspection is part of the software. It comes with it. And so we have true-false questions or yes-no questions. For example, did I check the filters? Well, yes, I checked them. And did I lube the blower bearings? Well, actually, no, I wasn't able to do that. Did I clean the condensate pan? Well, yes, I did. And this is a required question, as evidenced by that little red dot here on the left. But it's also one which I can answer any or all of the answers. And I've actually built this answer set in order to give me instructions on how to do a task. In this case, I'm going to remove and drain the pan. I'm going to scrape it and rinse it. I'm going to blow it out with compressed air, and I'm going to replace the clean pan. And all those answers populate in. I have text-based fields where I can just add a model number here. And so this is the DER 342. And it has 2 belts. And it's a 60 amp motor. Let's take a picture of that motor. So I can just quickly take a photo of my little motor vehicle and add that to the answer set of my inspection. Then I have a question about the frequency drive. Is it operational? So I have a straightforward yes or no question here where I have to pick one or the other. If I choose no in this case, it launches another subset of questions. So I have the ability to create a treed or branching set of inspection questions based on how particular questions are answered. So once again, I have the opportunity to take a photo. And here's that nifty frequency drive. And I have a nice fat multi-line text field, another place where Siri comes in handy. And so we can work our way back. We've answered that question. We have date and time fields, super simple if you're using current. A place for folks to type in the customer name. And so, of course, this one is Pam Rich. And if we can capture her signature electronically as well. As you can see, Pam works in medicine and was clearly trained by a doctor when she was taught to write. I can complete the inspection, and so now I've got my parts, I've got my task, I've got my inspection. It's time to ensure that I log my time on the job site. I know this one was scheduled for 2 hours, so we're just going to kind of back the time up a little bit so I can just put this guy up. So we got done in 1.25 hours, so we're a little bit ahead of schedule today. So I have a start time, stop time, and actual time all captured, available for use in the back office. And I can make some notes about the labor I performed on the job. Discovered a clogged air filter, replaced both required air filters on the unit, performed an inspection, and restarted the generator. Obviously, I could go back and edit and add punctuation as necessary. All that information captured against my asset, and I'm ready to complete my work. In order to do that, I just pop back to the main order section here, change my status to closed because I've finished the job, and I will force the system to sync and send the data back to the server. While that's getting synced, I will switch my screen back to the back office solution here, and we'll take the moment to take a peek at the information that's flowed back. I have just a few minutes to wrap this up and turn things over to Kelly again for questions, so stick with me, folks. So now we're here back at the schedule board. You can see that my building up here at Saratoga Medical has turned green, and that the appointment itself has turned from the original blue on through the various colors we selected to closed for red. Just pop back over to the order itself, and I can take a look at the order information with a quick refresh. You can see it took the time that I scheduled it for and added that information here. It also took the information that I entered in the field with regard to when I acknowledged the order, arrived on site, began and completed my work, and closed out the work order, and just captured all that information and brought it back to the system itself. And one more time with another little minor refresh here, it's also brought back all the information relative to the work I did in the field. So it's got my time, it's got the trip charge, it's got the 2 filters that we replaced, as well as the inspection that we performed, all reconnected and pulled into the work order history. Once I ship and invoice this, all that information will be added to the equipment history that we accessed from the call screen. One of the other pieces of the pie for us is taking advantage of the fact that we have a database here. And the database can be monitored through our alerts system. And it can be monitored for specific actions or lack of activity. And one of the things that we've done here to demonstrate that is created an alert that monitors the back office solution here for any work order that is closed in the field or completed in the field that has an inspection attached. And in this case, we definitely did do an inspection. So we've got an alert that creates an email, runs a report, attaches that report to the email, and provides us with inspection results. And we can just take a quick peek at that. Now this is generic and it works with all of the inspections that we have, but it captures the customer information in this case and all the questions and answers, including the photographs and the signatures that we pulled together out in the field, places them in a report. Clearly this can be configured as appropriate, and then this provides further ways for us to push information that we collect in the database back out for reporting to the area. So we want to take time for questions here, so I'm going to turn things back over to Kelly. And I'm going to do that right now. And away we go. Kelly, back to you.
All right, Chris, thanks very much. All right, should be getting back to my screen. So I think Brian's been taking a couple of questions. We have a small audience, so I think we have enough time to answer a couple questions here, or certainly if you want to follow up with email, that's fine as well. As Brian said, we have this webinar being recorded, so there'll be an on-demand one that should be ready pretty quickly. And then what we're going to do is break this out into something that's a little bit easier to view with chapters. So if you want to review what Chris walked you through, there's a lot to take in, so sometimes it's best to go back and review that. We have a really nice tool that you can do that, or maybe somebody in your organization would also like to see the software, and we can have that available for that use as well. Again, Chris went through kind of a high-level demo. If you're interested, typically what we would do is have a conference call and really review your needs in a lot more detail, and then the demo is a little bit more relevant as we kind of focus on your needs, your requirements, your vision for your service operation. So that's kind of how the steps would work if we take it to the next meeting. So Brian, I don't know if there's any specific questions that we wanted to cover, or give us a little bit feedback from the group.
Yep, I had 2 questions so far. The first question was, how does licensing work?
Yes, so on the licensing side, we have 2 options. We do primarily we're shipping our cloud version of our software, which was released last quarter of 2014. So typically in the cloud you have a subscription-based pricing that's $90 per month per user, and that's billed annually. And so that's the math is about $1,000 per user per year. So that would include the field technicians that have access to the software probably through a mobile device, as well as Chris played a couple different roles. So you might have somebody in the back office that's taking calls. You've got scheduling. So typically it's very heavy on the field service user count, but then there's a couple that are in that back office area. And so that's how that would work. We also have a number of clients that want perpetual licensing, so that that can be done as well. So if we get into a discussion where there's a preference to do perpetual licensing, we have both those options. But the $90 a month per user is a good way to kind of think about your budget. Typically that cost is recovered by just an hour or 2 savings per field technician. So the ROI is pretty compelling when you look at our solution. There's also some one-time implementation costs. We don't really have a fixed fee for that. That's really dependent on the specific situation. So as we get through a proposal phase, we would take take a close look at what is needed on the professional services side.
Okay, very good, thank you. The other question I had was, do the mobile devices work Wi-Fi only or also over a cell network?
Yeah, they would work in either environment, and the application is native, meaning that if Wi-Fi is not available or the cell network is not available, we can work offline, and then once that cell network or Wi-Fi is available, you can sync that way. So either way is fine.
Okay, and then that was the last question I had here.
Okay, terrific. So on the last screen here, just again, thank you very much for your time. Looks like we're going to be wrapping up under schedule here. So in terms of next steps, if you want to look further at our application or discuss your individual needs, certainly contact me and I can direct you to Chris or somebody else on the sales engineer team. If you're maybe not quite ready, you can subscribe to our blog. We've got a lot of good content that helps people think through the whole decision process. We have ROI-based blogs. We have a lot of information that's valuable as you're getting a project lined up. So I encourage everybody to go to our website and take a look at our blog information. And then, Brian, I guess after this we can just send an email out and make sure contact information is shared in case there's additional follow-up.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, well, I think that's a wrap for us. I appreciate it again, Brian and SWK, for sponsoring and hosting today.
Yep, and from SWK, thank you to everybody for attending this afternoon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.